ora whānau, it's Hemaima here, Hemaima Kāki Kueramu. I come from here in Otaki, and I am of Ngā Hapu o Otaki. So those hapu, the 5 hapu in Otaki are Ngāti Pare, Ngāti Kuriki, Ngāti Kapu Manawa Whiti, Ngāti Mai Otaki, Ngāti Huia. And so fortunate for me, I whakapapa to all 5 hapu. Kia ora.
Kia ora mai koutou, nā mihi ki a koe, ha maima koutou nā hapu o Otaki, nei rā nā mihi. My name's Charlene Moate Davis and I have some connections here. I come from Ngāti Huia, and so Kapu Manawa Whiti and Katihuku, I have connections there. I also connect to the big metropolis of Ngāti Wehiwehi a little bit further up the road, from Manukau, and I have connections to Taranaki Iwi and Ngāti Tuaranga Tira Ngaitahu. So I just wanted to welcome you to our little space today and say ngā mihi kia koutou katoa.
Yeah. So, we thought we'd just do a little kōrero, maybe go for a walk, but in my hands I have tarata or lancewood, and I've picked it because I know it's got a lovely perfume, and well, both Shah and I have used this in rongoa. We'll also hear about kaitiakitanga, so don't just go pick it, eh? Don't come into the ngahere and just pick willy-nilly. There's tikanga, there's kawa and processes that we all have to follow.
These places and spaces which you're visiting, you might be coming down to say parks for recreational purposes, they all have a long history and they have a connection to the people that have had an umbilical relationship with that land prior to us perhaps even coming here. But I think it's important, just one of the things we want to reiterate with kaitiakitanga is to know your place in your space. So find out about the history, find out about who connects to that place and space, and then you're starting to actually build a physical relationship with not only the people but the place. When it comes to ensuring that we uphold those practices that we kind of expect people to be observing when interacting with what we call rongoā, or these are rongoā rākau. So I wanted to just share what I have in my hand, and while we're here at Harua Tai, a really special place for Ngā Hapu or Otaki, that I have a taupata in my hand, and it's a really prevalent coastal plant that you'll find all around Kapiti. So, keep your eyes out for taupata, do your research, find out what it does, and just actually start your journey in rongoā observing. But I wanted to mihi to the plants that come from here and just share that in this kōrero today.
Pātaka o rongoā, and part of our kaitiakitanga is to observe, to feel, to look, to really understand what is the mauri that is happening here, what's the wairua of this whenua and of the rākau that are presenting itself at this waharoa. So Charlene and I stopped here because there's a number of rongoā all around us, and we're looking at how the quality of how they're growing. Also that there's water, the wetlands here is showing itself because we've had a lot of rain. Often I've been here and it is dried out. Just standing here with Shah, both of us looked up into the canopy, and then we looked down onto the whenua here, and you can see all the little seedlings of mahoi. And so this, Ngahere is also a great nursery. So where you place your feet, be aware of what above you is dropping as mokopuna. The seeds are all coming up on the ground, so we don't want to go off the track and just squash them, do we? We wanted to talk about a couple of plants that are, a couple of rongoā that are just here. So we've spotted the karamu, kawakawa, there's raureko, and also there's mahoi.
In terms of being a kaitiaki, it's not always about what we can get from a space. It's actually about relationships. So kaitiakitanga is built up over time. And so being a kaitiaki always is about using all of your senses to observe a space, because that tells you how to enter and how you have to be, how you have to behave. And so long-standing relationships with a place are the ultimate in terms of being a good kaitiaki. And so, we encourage you to always have built that relationship and that connection first. We've come in here and we've looked at, say for example, this rako, which is new, it's been newly planted. So there's remnants from the old ngahere, the old forest, but there's also been many hands, and some of them have been our children's hands, that have planted in this space. And so we would look at that relationship between the remnants, the kaumātua of this ngahere, and then these newly planted tamariki, I suppose, mokopuna. And we kind of go, what's going on here? Just by what we're sensing, what we're seeing, what we're observing. And so this karamu's not having such a good time. We're looking at the state of the leaves. We're looking at its growth. It also has a growth cycle, so you've got to know some of that baseline information. But our first obligation and responsibility is to these plants, because we have a relationship through whakapapa. And so our first action is never just to take. And I think there's a misconception about rongoā only being about the rako, the plants. It's not, it's actually about all the relationships that you build over time and the respect that you pay to these plants before you even start to think about whether or not they're able to be used medicinally. So it's not always important to just learn what it does. It's actually important to know how it lives, what enables it to live well. And those are all kind of part of your obligations and responsibilities as a really good kaitiaki. Nō reira, kia koutou katoa, nau mai hara mai ki ēnei wāhi tākaro, huri rauna i tēnei tō tātou rohi. Mai ia mātou, te whānau whānui o ngā tiraukawa, o tia tiawa ki whakarongotai, hei atu kia Ngāti Tō Rangatira. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Thanks for joining us today at Haruātai. Welcome into our whenua, welcome into our parks. It's here for all of us. And remember the stories that we have shared with you, and the kaitiakitanga, rongoā, and know that you have a place to create those relationships in the parks where we are living on the Kapiti Coast. Kia ora koutou.